Hey folks, this is Wistful Deal here, and I just got back from seeing Iron Lung, fellas. Now, before we begin, I do want to say that there are going to be spoilers in this, okay? Because there are a few things that I do want to talk about and kind of get in depth with, literally, here. But I'm going to let you folks know when I do get into spoiler, territory here. But overall, this film it was pretty damn good. I really liked it. So if you folks don't know what this film is about or what it is, other than starring Markiplier, obviously, that big famous YouTuber. I'm a huge fan of his. He's been a huge I've been a huge fan of him for years now, excuse me. I've watched his content since like 2013, 2012, and it's amazing how far he's come, honestly. And the fact that I was able to see this in theaters is quite mind blowing, honestly. Now, I do want to say, first and foremost, to what to expect from this film and everything. First and foremost, this is definitely going to be a film that's not for everybody. You know what I mean? It's a horror film, yes, but it's a different kind of horror. It's not the ridiculous bullshit typical Hollywood horror. That's kind of like a funny thing is that with the previews, right? There was like a bunch of new horror movies coming, and I just kept rolling my eyes at them because it was just the same cookie cutter shit where the camera zooms in or whatever or zooms out. Everything gets all quiet, everything gets all silent. And then boo, like freaking jump scare and stuff. It's so damn annoying, and I'm just so fatigued with horror. Not with just horror in general, really, or anything, but with Hollywood horror. It's the same shit every day, over and over again. So to see something like this has been such a breath of fresh air, and the main reason why I say this film isn't gonna be for everyone is that this is a different horror movie. It's like existential horror. It's slow building and very dreadful and stuff. It slowly eases in. It's not so much of like a monster being there or some form of I mean, guilt to some extent, but it's more so of an atmospheric type deal, and this is a very slow burn movie. I've heard many folks complain that this was too much of a slow burn or they got very boring. With me, I didn't see any of these issues at all. The film was not too long. In fact, it felt a bit too short, surprisingly. Maybe it's just me or whatever, but the film is just only a little over 2 hours. It's 2 hours and 7 minutes if you want to get, typical, but like the film, it was pretty good. It was a slow pace, a slow burn, but it was a very good slow burn. Things you know slowly build up and everything. So if you folks don't know what Iron Lung is or what it's about exactly. So basically, this film, if you honestly couldn't tell, it's based off of a game, the game called Iron Lung. And what this basically is that this is set to, well, you're isolated in a submarine and you're in the depth of this blood ocean that's on a moon. And basically, all you really do is that you swim around in this isolated, claustrophobic submarine tank that's like barely, kind of holding together, honestly. But basically, you go around the ocean, this blood sea ocean, and you take pictures. You basically, that's all it really is that you go around and you take pictures in this blood sea ocean, and whatever you find you mark, and kind of like a it's kind of like a battleship in a sense, like that board game Battleship in a way, because you have a map and it's based off of a game, and you have to open up the map, look over, and basically what makes it scary to me, what makes it scary to me per se is not really the environment or what's outside the world or whatever, but more so the fact that humanity is stretched thin. Like very stretched thin. Like, whoa, almost extinct here. I'm not trying to get into I'm not trying to touch too much into spoilers or whatever. But I will say that if you are a big fan or if you love the game Iron Lung, I will say you're probably gonna like this a lot. If you're alright with slow burns, gently easing into the story, because it's not like instant, it's not like bam, bam, or whatever. It's very I think that's kind of a good thing, honestly, is that it really takes its time, to ease in and everything. And this film is legit just set entirely in the submarine. That's it. There's except the ending, but I'll get to that in spoiler territory. But yeah, overall, the sound design was really damn good. I really loved the sound design, the environment, all of the beeps, the freaking, hearing the groaning of the walls and stuff. The pressure filling. I really loved it. The audio design of like the speaker, yeah, the one speaker and everything, and Markiplier's acting, along with everyone's acting, everyone did pretty damn good. I was really, impressed. It was pretty damn good. I wouldn't say there's a single one that really disappointed me in the acting department. So yeah, the atmosphere was really damn good. I think Mark got the atmosphere solid and right. With the tech and everything, with, the camera angles. Sometimes it would be super zoomed in, like very close, or fall off wide shots. The story, not the story. I'm not gonna too much on. I'm not gonna touch on the story just yet. But yeah, I just will say before I get into spoilers here that overall, if you're a huge fan of Iron Lung, definitely go see this film. I think you folks would definitely enjoy it if you're a huge fan of Iron Lung. I say that more than Markiplier himself being on the big screen, although that's pretty damn cool, honestly. Seeing one of my favorite YouTubers and creators being up on the big screen, was pretty damn cool. I really liked that. But yeah, so anyway, if you folks want to check this movie out, I would definitely say be sure to go ahead and get a seat if you can, because I definitely loved it. It was worth every penny to me, honestly. So yeah, I definitely really liked it. But there are some nitpicks here, and this is where we're gonna get into spoilers, folks. So here we go with spoilers in 3, 2, 1. I'm doing my hand backwards, but whatever. So anyway, spoilers. So obviously, I told you the basic of the film, right? Well, it's set in this, submarine, and you're in this blood sea ocean. There's actually some additional things added that I think I really liked, and it did help enhance the world building or universe per se. So obviously, as I said before, humanity is stretched pretty damn thin, like paper thin. And basically, what this is that this is set far off in the future, like distant future. I don't know exactly how long or whatever. Maybe that's kind of the point. But this is basically far off in the future, and there was something that happened called the Black Rapture, I think is what it's called. Yeah, the Black Rapture or Black something. Basically, well, communication or star systems or whatever, right, all just suddenly start disappearing. Things start to die out, and it like happened real quick. The lights really went off per se, and that's kind of why. And I don't know if it's exactly that we just suddenly lost communication with each other, but we're still there, like aliens in some sense, but we're so far off that communication can't reach us, but we're still there. Or things legit just Thanos snapped with the Infinity Gauntlet per se, and everyone just freaking died or some shit, or many died, and the very few that did and are huddled together in the sardine can of the universe. I don't know exactly if that's the case, either way, if we're still alive but we can't communicate because we're so far off, or if we straight up just disappeared off of the face of the universe. But anyway, either way, humanity is stretched paper thin, And so Markiplier, who's obviously, the main actor in this, he's also the director. He did this all on his own, which is pretty impressive. Not completely, because he did get some help, obviously, but he did mainly this on his own. He financed it, he directed it, and he did the acting of it, which is pretty damn cool and awesome, honestly. And I overall really enjoyed this film. I think he really did good with the idea of being in a submarine, trapped in. So there are some elements that were added in that I really liked. A prime example of this, a prime example to me, is that he actually went back up to the surface level. Because he went down again, and then he went up again, and then there's this lady, this one other person that we see, where she walks over and wipes off the blood from the submarine door or whatever, and this thing was honestly striking to me because she tells him, I can't remember exactly dialogue for dialogue, but she basically says how you need a tool, to get a sample of the bone, because he found like a skeleton down there, and so she installs this like drill bit or whatever thing that's like to ram into it. And so as Mark is like, why can't I just have my freedom or whatever, da da da. If Because that's the thing too, like I said before, like this submarine, it's a piece of shit, it's junk, like it doesn't really do shit. And so Mark's like, well, what the hell's the point then, and she, explains that, like, the point is that we need you and you need to do, this mission and stuff. And so, Mark in doing, and this is what kind of got to me, honestly. It didn't really scale me, but it did, like, spook me, like, holy shit. Because, if you know by the mechanics, obviously, and stuff, there's a camera that press, and when the camera activates, it, takes pictures. But this isn't some ordinary camera like what we have here or whatever. What I'm doing right now with you folks, the camera. So it uses hyper electric radiation rays or something like that. I'm not too exactly sure, but in a heat of a moment, Markiplier here, in some heat of the moment, he activates the camera as some form of, I don't know, justice or whatever, and the workers that were near the camera or whatever, that were, I don't know, repairing or fixing the submarine, whatever, get blasted by this freaking radiation. Now, I know some folks said that there was like some body gore that was pretty good during that scene. I didn't really see any body gore, but what showed me was the image that came up because there's like these skeleton guys now that are like this, and I'm just thinking like immediate sunburn or whatever. And the lady, I can't remember, I don't know any of the characters' names, by the way, because I'm completely utter shit with names. But she's like, what the fuck are you doing? That's not a normal camera. You can't just take pictures, through blood and stuff like any other. It uses a special technique of high radiation and stuff to get through so you can actually see what's over, which kind of does make sense in some way. I don't know if that's the actual quote case or whatever, but I do like the explanation because blood is actually thicker than water. Blood's pretty damn dense. So to have that kind of world building scientific explanation on that, was pretty cool. And Mark, he's like, oh, I don't know. Shit, I didn't know it would do that, because he's just thinking, and I was thinking as well that it's like it's just a camera, whatever, whoop de doo. But she explained that it's like that's not a fucking normal camera. That's a specialty type camera and stuff. So I really liked that scene. There's definitely a lot of blood, a lot of ketchup in this, per se, because you're in a blood sea ocean, and Another thing I really liked that I do wish they could have tapped in a bit better was Markiplier's childhood. And this character's name, he's not named Mark, by the way. It's like excuse me. It's not Markiplier. It's Simon. Yeah, Simon. And I know many folks are going to have a hard time separating Simon from Mark because all they're going to see is Mark on the big screen. But, I was immediately able to be like, okay, Simon, Markiplier, but okay, Simon. They did tap into his childhood a teeny bit. And there was some, I'm not going to get too much into it because there's kind of very little to go off of, honestly. But I do wish we did get a little bit more of his childhood. We got like 2 drops of it, like eye drops, in per se in the story, like 10 seconds, whatever, 15 whatever total seconds in the whole entire film of his childhood. And I do wish we could have tapped in a little bit of that, give a little bit of something, but the story overall, it goes similarly as it goes in the main game where, you follow around, you look for these markers, these points on the map, and you take pictures of it. There was one really rough scene, and luckily it was at the very beginning, but in terms of a flaw, or the biggest nitpick I will say, was the very beginning. Because, and speaking of the beginning, it was kind of jarring, honestly, because this is like the first indie film that I've actually seen, and I've grown so used to logos, like 20, 30-second logos of, I don't know, of 20-second logos of freaking, Paramount, or freaking, you know, um, Columbia, whatever, that lady, whatever, that's always, like this, whatever, or something. I've grown. I can't think straight clearly with names or whatever, but I've grown such accustomed to freaking logos and the title of the film or whatever, but with this, it doesn't do that. But anyway, in the beginning, there is a narrator, which I really liked, and you don't have to play the game to really get into the story here. That's one thing I did like, is that you don't have to play the game to really get. I mean, you could if you want to, but the film stands enough on its own that you can get the world building without having to play the game. Is what I'm trying to say. You can go in completely blind and still get what this is all really about and stuff without having to play, the game per se, just to get, oh, okay, that's what this is all about. But anyway, so during the beginning, the very beginning, right? Well, Markiplier gets in the submarine and he like descends, or he's coming down, whatever, top view camera, coming down in. The blood sea looked very rough. And I'm not trying to say like it's bad or whatever, but it looked super rough, I felt like that definitely could have been some workarounds. Like it looked very rough though. But after that, the atmosphere was overall very great. There were like some hallucinations or drug trips in this as well that I did like. That was very interesting. And the soundtrack in certain parts of this film made me immediately think of Blade Runner 2049, because of that slow, like that slow ambient music or violin or whatever you want to call it, whatever. I just immediately got the reminded of like, hey, this is like Blade Runner music, Blade Runner 2049, which is crazy. But yeah, I'm just yapping at this point. But I did really like this film. I think overall, this film is pretty good. It was kind of hard to follow, not hard to follow, but it was kind of tricky to really get the full picture. Honestly, there were some bits where it is kind of hard to fully grasp on, but it's not like anything like freaking Dune or whatever. Like, I like Dune myself or whatever. Dune's also a pretty slow burn, but Dune, man. I don't think I've seen part two, but like man, part one, like Dune, like that freaking takes of like a few days for me to really look over again, just to really get the full picture. But luckily with Iron Lung, it wasn't like that bad or on the same level here. So keep in mind on that. I think overall, what honestly personally happened is that he basically, Simon Hill, he basically just lost his mind and he hallucinated, and then he gets eaten. Basically, that's it. And the reason I say this is because it is shown that there's, an oxygen meter, with lights and stuff. And eventually it doesn't go all the way down, but it goes to one and then back up to two. So I think, honestly, eventually, during halfway through, at some point, he just loses his goddamn mind. He loses his marbles. There was a scene where he broke the speaker in like rage or whatever because I don't know, the machinery or speaker system was like driving him batshit insane. So he busts the speaker. Yeah, he breaks the speaker, but yet the speaker still turns on and stuff. But yeah, I'm just rambling at this point. Overall, this was a great film. I really liked this film. Other than the super rough beginning, I really liked it. I didn't think this film was too long personally. Um the acting was very good. The atmosphere was amazing. I personally think like this. I'm gonna say it. This isn't the best film I've seen, but this is probably the best video game adaptation film that I've freaking seen. You folks remember Hitman? You remember Agent 47, that stupid Hitman movie that took like the Hitman Absolution route or whatever, where it's just all action packed and shit. 47 doesn't even look like himself. That stupid ass film. Oh man, that was cringe. Along with the Assassin's Creed film that came out as well. It's crazy. But for a video game adaptation film, this was pretty damn good. This is probably the best one, honestly. It may not be the best horror related, but you know what? Horror to me, it's not so much with scales or whatever, it's more so with atmosphere. And I'd say this did pretty good. And plus, with some little added additions that I also forgot to mention, like instead of a paper that Simon finds, instead it's like an extra computer on the side or whatever that he notices, and he like powers it on and stuff, and then the letter that you find plays, or the speaker with the audio, or even underneath the submarine, there's like a whole, it's not much, but there's like a little section underneath where we had to manually power the engine back on or whatever. Just little bits like that help add in and spice up the lore. I really liked that, honestly. And I overall think if you're a huge fan of the game Iron Lung, I would definitely say be sure to check this out. Obviously, if you're a fan of a Markiplier, be sure to check it out too. But I'm trying to, like, take away from that. Like, sure, it's cool to see Markiplier and all on the big screen and how far he's come and how amazing this is personally and everything. I think it's really damn amazing, honestly. But at the end of the day, this is an Iron Lung film. This isn't just a Markiplier film, it's an Iron Lung film, and so. I will say first and foremost, personally, that if you're a fan of Iron Lung, if you love the lore, the story, or whatever, and you want to see a good film, definitely go check this out. This is pretty good. But I will say, like I said from the beginning, this film is not for everyone. It is a very much a slow burn, and I think that's overall personally for the best. And it still felt a bit too fast for me personally, but that's one thing I really liked, and this was such a breath of fresh air, because if you folks don't know, or I've kind of kept up to date with you folks or whatever, it has been a minute since I actually uploaded a video, because I've been dealing with a bunch of stuff. I've been dealing with a bunch of state shit, Personally, they changed me around, and I'm in this whole pickle mess shit all because I work. And keep in mind, I really don't do that much at my work. I only do part time, and like only do 2 shifts a week. That's it, and I'm going through all this crazy shenanigans shit, because I work, God forbid, and I try to be independent and be on my own 2 feet or whatever, and yet I get the hammer, I get freaking punished for it. It's such ridiculous shit, man, and a bunch of other stuff in life, that I'm not gonna fully get into. But yeah, and just completing stage 2, honestly, I hope you folks love stage 2, or at least liked it in some way or whatever. But yeah, after completing stage 2, which definitely, dread me down, because it's something I've never really done before. And I kind of feel what James honestly maybe feels when he gets done with his music, because my stage 2, it was, it's depressing, it's not really fun, and that's kind of the whole point of it. But yeah. But anyway, that's all I have to really say and talk about here. Overall, this was a great film, and yeah, it's been a minute, but yeah, after seeing this film, I am very glad I went and saw it, and it was such a breath of fresh air, personally. It was a breath of fresh air to go and see this film. But yeah, anyway, let me know what you folks thought of this film. Did you folks like it? I personally loved it. I do feel like there could have been a little bit of tweak here and there, personally, and that beginning was super rough. But yeah, overall, this was pretty damn solid. I couldn't have been any more happier to watch this film. But yeah, anyway, that's all I have to really say to you folks. I got more content coming under the way sometime later this week. But yeah, anyway, I enjoyed this film. So, with all that being said and out of the way, thank you folks all so much for watching. Be sure to leave a like, leave a comment, hit subscribe for more. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you folks don't miss out on a future video or post I make in the future, and that you can always be kept up to date. And if you have any requests or suggestions that you want me to go ahead and do, feel free to tell me down in the comments below. But anyway, that's it as of now, and I will see you all sooner or later. Bye bye, everyone.